This
You say we
conference
do have
will
a
now
quorum?
be recorded.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody. Appreciate you taking the time to be here. If I can figure out where I'm at again, I'm sorry. I lost my agenda, but here it is. We'll call the regular meeting to order. Like I said, appreciate you all be here. I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Anybody?
So moved.
Second, Brent Clark.
Thank you. Been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye, or type in aye, excuse me. I always forget to do that. All righty, motion carries. Approval of the minutes of June 9th.
So moved. This is Pete.
Pete, okay.
Second from Ann Miller.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye, or type in aye. Hell, I'll get it before it's over. All right, it is approved. Moving on, director's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Board members, good afternoon. We presented this update to Technical Advisory Committee as well to get blessings to carry on Wampo staff activities. So let me share the screen real quick. Thank you. Primarily, we got some feedback from TAG committee chair as well as members of the TAG committee to make what activities and goals this committee would have and who would be able to join this committee. So we made a report on, provided clarity on page 7 in your packets, showing what are the goals and activities of these working committees and who can become a committee member. So it's there. It's detailed from the feedback from the TAC members. Just to provide a quick summary, there are some slides here that I would like to share with you. You have all seen the development of Metropolitan Transportation Plan in the past 6 months. As it culminated, now the next Metropolitan Transportation Plan is due in 5 months. But there are a lot of opportunities that Wampo staff realized that how can we make the data more robust and more accurate over the next period of 2 or 3 years, so that in the 4th and 5th year of the next Metropolitan Transportation Plan, the decision-making process for project selection can be based on a sound data that is in good shape. So that's one of the reasons why this working group committee works with local cities and towns and the technical staff from the local cities and towns. So what happens is Wampo staff working with technical staff from all communities in the Wampo area makes it a partnership, a coordination, and the data review, such as ground truthing, how accurate is the data. So these are some of the intent behind why this working group was formed, and so that's a brief summary of what is the intent of this working group committee. How would it benefit both local entities as well as Wampo? For local entities, it is at the regional scale. Working at the regional scale has a lot of value to it. Like how can the community fit in the regional scale in terms of both planning as well as data? So that's a quick background of what is the purpose of this committee. Now, what are the names of these two committees that are upcoming? The first one is Safety and Health Committee, and second is Active Transportation Committee. And on the first one, the Safety and Health Committee, you have seen several reports and presentations by staff of Wampo on how the fatalities and serious injuries of the crash data was increasing. So we had discussions like what are the strategies to reduce the crashes that were occurring in the past, and how can we improve the safety of transportation system for the region. So this is the primary goal for the Safety and Health Committee, to monitor the data that was occurring on the crashes and then monitor which parts of the region has higher occurrence, and then how can we work with each other, both local communities as well as regional staff in improving the safety of the transportation system. Also, in this Safety Health Committees also looks at Safety and Health Committee also looks at health in general. Prior to COVID situation, it was emissions from the automobile, and then how can ozone and asthma, those health concerns were addressed. Now it seems to be both ways. Like how can the impacts of pandemic and situations like COVID can have on transportation system? How is it reducing the automobile transportation? How is it keeping steady the goods movement and freight movement, although some of the automobile movements were reduced? So these were some of the things that Safety and Health Committee would look into and share the data with each other. And by this coordination and this continuity of planning process, and then being comprehensive and more accurate, these are some of the planning activities that federal government recommends as well. So following those planning guidelines and best practices, this is the initiative of State Safety and Health Committee. So the primary activities of Safety and Health Committee are strategies for reducing crashes in our region, develop an educational awareness tools. What can be those educational awareness tools that we share with each other and communities that improves safety of the region and reduces the crashes. Also update safety and health data reports. So review of the data by staff is part of this, and explore new initiatives such as Vision Zero goals. And is it in a decade or 2 decades? When do we have a goal of having 0 crashes and 0 fatalities? So those are some of the things that Safety and Health Committee would look into. If there are any questions, I'm happy to talk and address those questions. Otherwise, I'll move on to the next Active Transportation Committee. Okay. So on the Active Transportation Committee, primarily looks into the infrastructure of, bike path, trails, and even the wheelchair, and all non-motorized, non-automobile types of transportation. And you have seen in MTP development, there's a map that has a regional pathway system plan, and it shows what are the potential connections. This particular committee would look into how are the regional connections in place. For example, Wichita to Bel Air, Wichita to Derby, Bel Air to Derby, or Derby to Andover. So these connections, what are the regional trails? Are there any missing links? How is the safety enhanced for the users of the system? So these are some of the things that this committee would look into, primarily the system connectivity in our region. How do we prioritize regional potential corridors? How does this integrate with the transit network? And then how safety can be enhanced. So these are some of the things that Active Transportation Committee would look into. At this time, we would like to request both TAC committee members and TPB members, if there's any staff in your jurisdiction that Wampo staff can work with, we are looking forward to these 2 committees. And there are meetings scheduled for the Safety and Health Committee. The meeting is scheduled on Wednesday, August 12th at 9:30 a.m. And for active transportation committee, it is the following month, Wednesday, September 9, 9:30 a.m. So these committees may occur once in 2 months or quarterly. So it's not a whole lot of time commitment from technical staff from local cities and governments as well. So it should be a good start for this partnership and coordination. And this also leads the way into how do we implement metropolitan transportation plan that was developed? How do we have the ongoing conversations of what were the transportation projects that were identified in metropolitan transportation plan? So these are some of the things that an ongoing discussions continue. Thank you so much. Any questions, I'll be happy to address those.
Okay, so what we'd like to do is have all the entities and whatnot that want to be participants to please contact Chad and with the name in the next couple of weeks, so we can get that committee and then we can take a look at it at the next meeting. Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Anything else, sir?
That's all, Chair. And the next item is it's the APBP webinar series that's in your packets. And then after that is the consent agenda item, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right. We'll move on to the consent agenda. I'd entertain a motion to approve. If you don't want to type it in, just say aye and you're there you go. Ann and David Dennis moved and seconded. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All right, here we go. All right, next item we have is the public comment. I know, Alan, you'd like to talk to us at this opportunity.
Yes, thank you. Actually, my comment relates to the WSU report on the future of transportation. It's going to be presented later. It would make more sense if I could comment after that report was made. I can do it now if necessary, though.
I have no problem if you'd like to make it afterwards. Does anybody object to that? If not, we'll move on.
Thank you.
Anybody else would like to address the board at this time? If not, we're going to move on to new business, the update to future transportation. Dad, you want to, Lisa?
Thank you. Lisa is here to present, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lisa Dodson with the Public Policy and Management Center, and I'm delighted to be able to be here with you today and present the results of this exciting study. This has been a study that's been conducted over several months now, and it's really pleasing to reach the conclusion and hopefully have some information that you will find helpful. The purpose of the study, sorry, I'm having trouble with my progression here. So the purpose of the study was to collect meaningful stakeholder engagement. We did a series of processes to try to be sure that we reached as much and as wide of an audience as possible. We were interested in understanding their current interests and also their awareness of alternative modes of transportation. So part of this initiative involved educating, because we couldn't just assume that when we went out and talked to people, they were going to understand driverless technologies or some of the other kinds of synchronized stoplights, that sort of thing. So our efforts also had an educational component to it. We then tried to gather public input on the issues and implications they were concerned around technology and transportation, and finally to get some sort of rank order of investment priorities. So when you don't ask people exactly how much they're willing to pay in taxes, you don't know for sure, but you can get sort of a ranking of, well, we like this technology or investment better than this investment. So that's what we were going for, was a ranking. The overview of the study, initially we formed a steering committee. We conducted an extensive literature review to see what other communities were doing. We were able to conduct 11 focus groups before the pandemic hit and we had to shut down. We tried a few online focus groups, but didn't have outstanding participation. So, but we did get what we felt like was a critical mass of information with those 11 focus groups. We participated in a mayor's briefing where we announced the launch of the survey to the community, and it was an online survey open to just about anybody that wanted to take it, and we were pleased to get 543 responses for that. I wanted to share with you just a general idea of where the survey participants came from. These are some maps based on zip codes of respondents. You can see the blue triangle area is the Wampo area. So we did get comments from people outside of the Wampo region, but the vast majority of our respondents did come from within the Wampo region. And this shows you kind of a heat map of where the most concentrated returns were from. But we felt good that we did get a general sampling of the region. So in general, we asked about traffic, and it was really interesting to us and gratifying, I think, to all of us that 84% of the people in our region say that traffic is really not the problem and travel time is reasonable, but they also did feel, 84% felt that it's important to have continued investment to reduce road congestion. So they like the idea of the stoplight technologies and things like that that have been in place on Maple and other areas of the community. So this is kind of a detailed table, and I'm just going to walk you through this. The more extensive report will be on the Wampo website for you to read, but I thought you would be interested in the investment recommendations that our survey respondents gave us. So we asked them, should we invest in transportation infrastructure that support these different lists of options? And they could respond, definitely invest, probably do not invest, and definitely do not invest. So beginning with the first one, I'm consolidating the probably and definitely categories in the numbers I'm going to share with you today, just so we can get a general idea of which direction the pendulum is swinging on these priorities. So we asked them about supporting infrastructure for individually owned hybrid or electric vehicles. And about 75% of them were in favor of this. These were technologies like charging stations. And we did look at that in an analysis based on age, and we found no difference in age group. So no matter what age the respondent was, 75% of them did tend to support investment in hybrid and electric technologies. We asked about support for individually owned driverless vehicles. Here it was less robust, 46% approximately supported that, and here we did find an age difference. We found that the younger audiences under age 25 tended to be more supportive of this technology than older audiences age 65 or older. We asked about vehicles operated by Uber, Lyft, or some other private agency, whether or not they felt support was for those organizations. infrastructure. And only 48% were in favor of that. So a little under 50% supported private investment. And if you look all the way to the left here, it had one of the higher definitely do not invest categories. So 17.3% said, no, we're not really interested in you supporting that. We then asked about driverless vehicles operated by Uber, Lyft, or some other private agency. So now we're asking them specifically about, would you be interested in driverless technology by a private company? And that was even lower. That was about 30% were in favor of investing in that infrastructure. And you can see 32.5% definitely do not invest. We then moved to public transit, and we asked about development of a more comprehensive public bus system that is convenient with extended routes. And there we got 90% of the respondents who were in favor of that option. So that was very strong support for more comprehensive bus routes. We then took it into the driverless realm again and said, well, would you be interested in supporting driverless bus systems? Here we got about 57% were in favor of it. So interestingly, there seems to be a little more trust in driverless bus systems than there is in investing in infrastructure for driverless cars. But that it was less than the comprehensive bus system. We were interested also in the park and ride system for commuting. We did hear both in the focus groups and on the survey that regional citizens were interested in more park and ride options for commuting, infrastructure related to that. We asked about rented scooters or bike shares and other similar transportation. Remember, this study happened before COVID hit. So at that point in time, we still had 60% of the people that were in favor of infrastructures to support scooters and bikes. It would be an interesting study to see how COVID and the growth in interest in bicycles might have changed that response. And finally, the last one, an expanded system of walking or biking paths. We had 92.3% of our respondents were in favor of that. So I think Chad's on track with his safety and health committee and looking at safety and also in bike paths committees, because I do think we saw strong support for that in this survey. So our recommendations from the report, investment in 5G technology. Many of these new infrastructures hinge on having the technology available. And we think Wampo could do some work in promoting robust community and regional discussions about 5G technology and helping to educate the public more about the need for and benefits of 5G. Transit, we think that there's some room for facilitating conversations with decision makers about transit and park and ride facilities. Equity, safety, public education, and access. One of the points I put in here to highlight was that about 95% of the respondents felt investments in transportation that improve safety for everyone are critical to our region's future. We're also recommending vehicle infrastructure, looking at preparing for autonomous vehicles and hybrid vehicles. There's clearly a lot of support for that, particularly for private individuals and public transit. So we think that there's room for exploring those options. And bicycle and pedestrians, we heard a lot about having more informational signage about paths that are available, and also expanding and enhancing those paths. Finally, in conclusion, I want to start by this top little graphic I've got here saying that 95% of our respondents did see a connection between transportation system investments and regional well-being, including economic opportunity. What we do know is that the typical citizen does not really recognize the significance of what is at stake. They see a connection, but they don't necessarily know how significant that connection is. Hence, room for education. We also concluded that the timelines for making these investment decisions are rapidly approaching. So in order for us to stay economically competitive with our peer regions and with the nation as a whole, we need to be thinking towards these technologies down the future. And we don't have as much time as we might think. Social and economic inclusion requires creating transportation options for everyone. So we did hear clearly through the focus groups that being inclusive and making sure that everyone has access to transportation is going to be very important. I wanted to show you one more thing that concludes my formal remarks, but we have just finished working with the Wampo staff to develop a 2-page handout that we will encourage you to push out to your constituents, other elected officials, people in the region. It's a summary of the study in a quick snapshot form. So we have the project components, we have the community investment priorities here, and on page 2, you can see some highlights, the regions that were sampled, and finally our recommendations from the study. So I'd be happy to answer any questions or entertain any comments at this time.
Okay, any questions for Lisa? If not, thank you. And Lisa, after Alan's talks, maybe we'll be coming back to you. So,
Okay.
all right, Alan, would you like to address the committee at this time?
That would be great. Thank you. As I'm sure you're all aware, in conducting any survey, the design and the questions that are asked and so forth often have a big influence on what the results are that you get. And in this case, this study was very much focused on technology. It was, I think the actual title of it is The Future of Transportation and Technology. And it included a presentation about technology at the beginning of the focus groups and so forth. And so it's not surprising that several of the recommendations relate to improving technology, the 5G network, preparation for autonomous vehicles and that sort of thing, which I think is a worthwhile goal, and I don't have any objection to it. But what's most interesting about surveys is when you have clear results that are not the primary focus of the survey. And in this case, we have a couple of those. As Ms. Dotson pointed out, there was 90% support for an expanded and more complete system of transit in the area, and 92% support for an expanded and more complete system of bike and pedestrian facilities. Those are significantly higher than the support numbers for any of the other alternatives that were addressed in the survey. So when you have, like I say, clear results, a clear preference for something that was not the primary focus, in this case, the technology, I think it's especially important to take note. And I would urge you in your decisions going forward on deciding the future of transportation to take those into account. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your comments. Any other discussion from members of about this? All right, if not, thank you, Lisa. We appreciate that, and we'll certainly be looking at that. Next up is our committee updates. Got several things. Tom Jones is going to discuss a little bit. The executive committee went through and discussed Chad's evaluation, and we are somewhat behind on that. He was supposed to be reviewed in 6 months, and it's been several months past that. So Tom, I'll let you take the ball and run at this time. Are you there, Tom? Okay, well, apparently Tom is not there. Anyway, so what we did is the executive committee of David Dennis, Alan Tabor, myself. Who else was there, David? Wasn't there one more? Or Troy? Anyway, and Tom, of course. But so we met and we went over, and we are somewhat. We didn't have a written evaluation. We had not a written evaluation, but a written set of guidelines and timetables and whatnot for him. We did not get that done. We had oral discussions with him about what we needed done and the direction that Wampo was going and what we were expecting of him. We feel that he has met those expectations. He's gone through some trials and tribulations and some changes in staffing and whatnot, and getting things back up to speed, and really is our first full-time director dedicated 100% to Wampo. He's done some things. The employee manual, for one, and I apologize, I do not have my notes with me, but David or Troy, do you have anything else that we discussed that you'd like to add in?
Troy, this is Troy. I do not. Very well.
David, anything?
Thank you. What we discussed privately before we brought Chad up to talk with us was his performance since he's arrived, and any kind of direction that we want him to go in the future. And we were all unanimous, I believe, in our Chad is taking the Wampo into the direction that we want Wampo to go at this time, and we are supportive of continuing his employment, and to at the end of our initial period, we had discussed when we were hiring him to give him a pay raise to bring him up a little bit, and we all agreed that should be accomplished also.
Okay, thank you. We discussed, the committee discussed amongst ourselves how much of a pay raise and what we felt was appropriate in this environment. We kind of looked at what we as the different entities gave at as merit increases, and it was a discussion between 4 and 6%. We have, as a committee, have come up with 5%, and that our recommendation is that we approve a 5% merit increase for the work that he's done. Chad, when did you start with this? I apologize.
September 23, 2019. Last year.
Thank you. So, you know, we're not too far off, but we're a little bit behind. So our recommendation is the 5%, and then we will and then set an evaluation for 12 months from now to review and go forward. And that's kind of where we're at right now. And the committee would be stand for questions.
And Dan, this is David one more time.
Sure.
I want to make sure that everybody understands that this was something that we talked with him about when we were hiring him, that after a certain period of time, we would look at an initial raise. And we did discuss during our executive session, one of the concerns we've got, we're not going to give any pay raises in Sedgwick County. I'm sure that if we talk to the council folks from the city of Wichita, there are probably not going to be too many pay raises there either. So I don't want this to look like it's out of the ordinary for what we're doing. It was something that was premised as we were in the hiring process, and that's why we're following through that promise. What happens in the rest of Wampo, I'm not sure, depending on what the finances are. This is something that that we felt was right based on what we told him when we were hiring him.
That is correct. We did that, made that recommendation to the board to be reviewed in 6 months.
Mayor Clausen, comment.
Sure.
If it's at the end of 6 months, and like you said, because of COVID-19, things are not always on schedule. So will it be retroactive to, I used April the 1st, since he should have had this done the latter part of March. So will the 5% be back to that date? If not, what is the starting date?
I think that's a very good comment, Donna. I appreciate that. I think it should be, since it was our fault that and I'll take the blame for that. And we were a little busy with other things, like you say, this virus and stuff. So I would recommend going back to the start date or the date of April 1st. I'm very comfortable with that. I think that's when it should have happened. And I think,
and I agree. I just wanted to make sure that it was noted so it would be recorded wherever you all record this type of thing.
Okay, thank you. And well, we are waiting. Yeah, it'll be in the minutes of this meeting till on the next, to be approved next month. That's because we have taken nothing, no formal action until we brought it to the board and had the board approve it. So.
And can it be on the consent agenda?
We don't have it on the consent agenda. Would you prefer that, or would you just like to make a motion, or you or somebody else make a motion and we can go forward at this point in time? Anybody?
I'm sorry, you faded out.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said we can either do it next month on the consent agenda, or we can go forward with it with a motion and a second and a vote today. It's whichever the board prefers. Any other comments? Which way you'd like to go with it?
Well, personally, I would put it on the consent agenda because we have discussed, the executive committee has discussed it, and now it's up for discussion with the entire committee. So that's just my suggestion, but staff or Chad or you can decide the best place for it as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I don't think it matters to you which way it goes, does
No.
it?
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Anyways,
we will put it on the consent agenda for next month, and with Chad add about the April 1st date. Is that agreeable? If anybody else has any comments one way or the other? Okay, we'll see it next month on the consent agenda.
thank you so
The
much.
other thing I wanted to bring up is it's been a month or so since we've done this, maybe a little further, that we've had, I know Chad and I met with Mike Lowry and Michelle with AGH. We have some accounting and whatnot, and since we just have a new accountant on staff, he is got some things that he's concerned about. Part of it was or a good part of it was in last year's audit. With the virus and some of the other things, we haven't had a chance to address this, but he is strongly suggesting, and Chad is also suggesting, that we bring on a consultant to help us set our policy, our financial policies, to be in conformance with federal and state guidelines. We have some things that are a concern to our auditors, and that he thinks it would be a better job, better transparency if we could put some other things in place. What I would like to do, and I'm recommending for next month's agenda, is asking to allow staff to go forward with contacting consultants and come back with a contract and a scope of services for helping us set these procedures up. And we guesstimate somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000 to have this done, and this will be an ongoing relationship with the consultant to set things. And I think with the problems we had a year or so ago, or exactly, I don't remember the exact dates, but we do need to do something to get this back into perspective and make sure that we are dotting the I's, crossing the T's, and moving forward, so our partnerships with state and feds is not in jeopardy again, and that we certainly have transparency and going forward. And I think this would be a good thing for staff. And now that we have a new staff member on board, I think it'd be an excellent time to do this, and that way she could be up to speed and in the process, so she'll know from top to bottom what we're doing. So that's going to be my recommendation, to bring that back next month on the consent agenda. And Chad or I would be happy to answer any questions you have.
Mayor Klassen, Mays.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, transparency is always something that I'm very interested in. Okay, I understood when I talked to whoever that the 2018 audit had some challenges or discrepancies brought to your attention, and these were to be corrected or taken care of, whatever, in 2019. Now, my question is, 2019 is, and we're 6 months into 2020, has there been a 2019 audit? We've never seen a draft, never talked about it or anything.
Yeah, no, it's not ready to be prepared or presented at this point in time, and we have tried to address some of those. AGH doesn't feel we're doing, they still think that there's some things that we need to have in place and change to ensure that transparency. And yeah, there again, Chad came in September. He didn't have much time to work on that, and with all this other stuff going on, we're trying to get back on track and make sure that all of those things are taken care of.
And with that thought in mind, I have no problem with a consultant, but the person, and I have no idea what the job description says for our financial person, when she was, and I understand it was when she was hired or looked at, how is she qualified to take care of it, even if we have a consultant? Because I wouldn't think we'd have a consultant until death do us part. I mean, I don't know why books can't be set up and
I don't think it's
be set up, but maybe it's just me. So anyway,
I think it's the policies. Excuse me, Donna. It's the policies and procedures. She does fine on the accounting and on that type of thing, and we're not concerned about that. Yeah. We're just wanting to make sure, because we're dealing with so many different agencies.
Correct.
That we're on the same page and everybody knows what we're doing. Right now, to look at it, and I know all of us are involved in government, it's very difficult to get as many different policies and boards together. AGH is our auditing firm. They also don't feel comfortable or think that they should be involved in helping us set up the accounting process that they think would be good for us and do our audits. They look at that as a conflict of interest, and that somebody could question the hands, you know.
Right.
So that's why they're recommending, they could do it, but we couldn't use them to do our audit. So they're recommending going to a consultant, and they
Okay.
have the name of a couple that they think that we should interview and talk to
Okay,
about
that
it.
makes more sense, and I'm sure
Yeah.
some of the members already had the background of that, but I did not. So
No,
that's the
not a
reason
problem.
I was concerned, because the audit, you know, audit should be done by now, whether,
Yeah.
and the members should know what's going on, and for the last 2 years, and I understand that we've had some challenges in that area. So, but it sounds like what the executive committee is suggesting is going to set up policies and procedures that will take us in the right direction. So thank you.
You're welcome. And like I said, and it's easy to blame the virus and all this other stuff that we've been dealing with, because we've all been extremely busy with that. But, and I, like I said, I, as chairman, I'll take a lot of that blame, and that's fine. But we not meeting in person and stuff, it is so much more difficult to get, I think, to get things done and to have these open discussions on time. We're probably a month or so away before we come back together as a group, depending on where our numbers go, virus rise and whatnot. But I think that's going to be a key to moving forward also. So we're trying to get some things back online and back going in the direction we need to go as an executive board, and reporting back to the board as a whole to move things forward. So, and I appreciate all your comments and support on this. So, all right. So I will, unless there's some objections, I am going to ask Chad to go forward with that deal and bring us back a contract that we could take a look at and review at the next meeting. And I think it should be a separate action item, so we just go on. I'll just not do that on a consent agenda unless you would like, unless the group would like to. Okay. All righty. That's all I have. Any other executive board member, Dave or Troy, have any, or James? Okay.
Troy does not at this time.
Okay. One last thing I did think of, we are probably going to be looking at some discussions with Sedgwick County and City of Wichita on some of the finance issues. Sedgwick County has been very instrumental in the rent and other things. So, and I think City of Wichita would not mind turning over some of the financial help they've been giving us over to the county. But that's going to be for a future discussion between the executive board, the city, and the county. So that's just something that's going to be, you might just put in the back of your mind that we're going to be looking at that and discussing that and bringing that back in the future, probably closer to the end of the year or the first of next year to change some other things. But that's kind of it in a nutshell. With that, Troy, I'll move on to you.
Donna Klassen again.
Yes,
You faded out when you said, after you said something about Sedgwick County and Wichita Executive Board. I don't know what you said after that.
We're going to the executive board, and Chad are going to start discussing each of those two, since the city is providing part of the financial
Local match.
Thank you. Local match for us. Sedgwick County is doing the providing rent and office space at no charge to Wampo. We're just going to start discussing with those their continued roles in both of those, and if we're going to switch things up. Did that come through, Donna?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, but that'll be, I'm just giving you a heads up that we're talking about it. It's going to be a future discussion, and we'll be bringing that back to you. So, all right. This time I'm really done. Troy, it's up to you.
Troy, yeah. I just wanted to say we had an excellent meeting and some information that was already brought out tonight. So I don't have anything further than that to report at this time.
Okay, thank you. Freight Committee.
Karen Page is probably. Karen.
Hello, everyone. I'm actually working in the office today instead of in my home office, so it's lovely and change of environment. Not only do I get to see all of you, but to do it from my downtown office in Wichita. Thanks for inviting me to speak. I'll be very brief. The Freight Committee, which I have the honor to chair, we will meet again on July 28th at 9:30 a.m. Chad and I have been working to add some private sector committee members, and we've had some success in that area, adding a handful of representatives from the private sector. And then we've also been doing some outreach to multiplier organizations, like, for example, our friend Andrew Weens at the Wichita Chamber of Commerce gave us some recommendations for reaching out to small manufacturers as well. So I think that we're making some progress. A reminder about our purpose for being is that our job is to make sure that the freight industry is represented in our Wampo long-term planning. So whereas the long-term transportation project planning incorporates person movement, this is really just focused on freight movement, so how we move goods. And since Wichita is in the region are significantly dependent on the movement of goods, that'll be our focus. How can we make improvements? How do we incorporate technology? What are the needs of those companies as they move their goods to and from Wichita and around the world? If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer, and I'm sure that Chad will give us a chance to give you an update after the meeting that we have on July 28th. Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Kansas Department of Transportation. Tom, are you here? Or...
I am. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I have. I am here to address the local projects, and we have a lot of them going on highways right now. 8, in fact, administered by KDOT, and then of course the 2 East Kellogg projects, those administered by the city of Wichita and the other by the Kansas Turnpike Authority. I don't think I want to go into all those, but I wanted to let everybody know, do a weekly report on those projects. And there's the shortened address if you would like to subscribe to that. I tried to put it in the chat, but I see that it only went to one person, so I'll do that again. You can send me an email if you'd like to subscribe to that weekly report. I understand that if you get it for 3 or 4 weeks and say, ooh, no thanks, my feelings are not hurt if you unsubscribe. I think one thing of note that's coming up, everyone, if I can figure out how to get it to everyone. There we go. Okay, there's the address if you're online. Coming up on a project on northbound I-135 from US 54 all the way up to 17th Street, the big long bridge on northbound I-135. There are some expansion joints that we will be fixing in the next couple of months, and that will require closing ramps from US 54 to northbound I-135 every Friday night until late Tuesday night or Wednesday morning, so that the contractors can get in there and fix these expansion joints that span across the 3 driving lanes plus shoulders. So it's extensive work, and traffic will be able to go through there, but we won't be able to take traffic on from US 54. So those ramps will be closed 5 days out of 7 every week. So that's in the report. If you'd like to subscribe to that, I send it out to the media plus anyone who wants to read that every week. And that's where I'm getting my information today for you. There are lots of other minor things on there. Changes happen every week on these projects, so it's available to you if you'd like it. And that's everything I have. If anyone has a question for me, I can answer that. If not, Brett Turstrip would like to address the body, Mr. Chair.
That'd be fine.
Good afternoon. Chad, I wanted to let you know we had an issue in the past on trying to get our projects to letting date we had set, change in some funding. Things had pushed that back, make that take a while. All our projects get pushed to the spring and it causes big issues. I want to let you know that your staff helped us figure a way out to make that not a problem anymore. And I greatly appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett.
Thank you so much.
Anything else? All right. Mike Moriarty?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. Just a couple of items from KDOT headquarters. I do want to draw your attention to your email inboxes. Information was sent out yesterday on the Eisenhower Transportation Funding Program. That's our new statewide transportation program. We also sent out some of the links for the recent cost share program announcements. There were a number of pretty exciting projects in South Central Kansas that were funded through this round, as well as a project in the region. I believe it was in the city of Wichita. Also wanted to let everybody know KDOT headquarters staff are continuing to work remote. My staff is going to work remote through the end of the month. We'll make a decision regarding their return to the office at that point. By and large, most of the work groups in Topeka are working from home. It is going quite well. It's actually going shockingly quite well because most of our people have never really experienced that remote officing situation, and they've adjusted very quickly. So we're very happy for that. I believe that's all. We still have some folks going around the state doing data collection and things like that. But again, for the most part, our building is empty. Thank you, sir.
You bet. Thank you. And I did get that information. I appreciate that. So, okay. Anybody else? Any other business to discuss?
Rick is here today.
Good.
Federal Highway Administration?
Rick
Yeah,
is here.
afternoon, everybody. Join you all for an update on Federal Highway program.
Oh, I'm sorry, Richard. I missed that. I apologize.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Good to see you all. Good to be back and virtually see you all. First, what I wanted to mention was Paul Foundukas. I had mentioned previously that Paul has moved on. He was promoted into a position in our Office of Policy, and he's doing well. He's working virtually out of our Topeka office. We've had some hiring issues happen within our agency, so we will be delayed in backfilling that position. We won't be announcing something probably, I would think, until late fall. So we're going to be continuing on an interim basis with coverage. I know that Chad, your folks have been working with Matt McDonald of my staff. He's my team leader for program development. That will continue. So if you have STIP amendments, if you have UPWP amendments that you work through KDOT that come through on the STIP or whatever, those will continue to go through Matt. And I'm providing technical assistance as well, since I've worked in planning quite a bit. So that said, if there are issues that come up at Wampo that are beyond policy, if you need me to be involved, please feel free to reach out to me or to Matt. But I did want to let you know that that's going to be a longer term issue in terms of backfilling of the planner position. In terms of our agency, Mike Moriarty talked about some really exciting updates. I don't know, Mike, if you'd mentioned to the group here about the short line railroads. I think you all have been gearing up some special programs as well in that area.
Yes, we have, and I'm happy to get some information out on that. Absolutely.
Yeah, so there's been some real exciting developments there on the freight side. we had talked about the Kansas Transportation Innovation Summit. We had initially planned for that to be June, July timeframe. With all the issues that's arisen, we're looking to push that out to 2021. I know that Wampo was a key player with that. At the national level, the FAST Act expires on September 30th. I'm sure you're seeing in the news, there's a number of proposals in the House and the Senate. At this point, we're waiting to see what's going to gel with Congress. The direction we're getting is, we're proceeding and planning for continuing operations after September 30th. So we're in a stay tuned mode at this point as well. We do have full funding in place, and our funding to Kansas is $416 million for this year. So we've received the final amounts for that. What else? We recently had announcements for infra grants, and that's kind of what I have to report today. But I will be trying to come in monthly, but definitely every other month I should be involved here at the committee. But again, given the personnel issues we've got right now, if there's issues that I can more directly assist with, either let me know or let Matt McDonald know. So, thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Richard. Glad to have you back too. Okay, we'll go on to other business. Anybody else have anything? If not, we stand adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.